Hey guys, in this video I will give you tips on how to increase your rating in WN8, even though grinding tanks on a line where there are lots of tanks is difficult to play. But before that I want to explain something to improve your understanding. Many old players consider WN8 to be the basis for determining how good a player or an account is. Even though it's not wrong, there are things that need to be considered before making an assessment. We cannot generalize everything because there are many differences that we must pay attention to. For example, the difference in experience between new players and old players, then between free players and big spenders, most of which I have discussed in the previous video. Then the difference between players who focus on grinding tanks and players who focus on WN8 or rating. Or players who are just looking for fun to spend their free time. And there are many more things we have to consider before determining whether an account or player is good or bad. Unfortunately, not everyone can think wisely when looking at this. Most old players who don't think enough only look at the rating or numbers on your current WN8. Actually, that is the mindset of stupid people, because they have been playing for more than 5 or 10 years, then compare themselves with players who have only played for 1 or 2 years. Or players who have played more than 50,000 battles compare themselves with players who still have 10,000 battles. So those stupid people won't be able to see the situation and conditions, whether you are a new player, focused on grinding, a free player, and whatever the reason, they won't care, because they will only see your rating and your current WN8. Usually people do this to brag and insult other people. If you're just looking for fun and never show your account to anyone else, then none of this matters. But if you are active in the forum, like to ask questions, have opinions, or want to complain about the game, then WN8 and your rating are important so that you are not insulted by some people who have mental disorders and like to insult. And for content creators like me, it is also very important, even though it has been explained that I previously focused on grinding. Haters who don't accept the opinions and information I convey, they don't care, because they only want to see the numbers they can see. I've experienced it where some people just insult without using their brains and feelings. So a few months ago I started changing the way I play to improve my rating in WN8. As you can see, this is my recent WN8 when making this video. And this is on my old account. Even though it's not the best result, I've only been playing for about 2 years with a total of 22,000 battles when this video was made. I think that is quite satisfying, especially with several limitations where the internet in my area often has problems and games often lag. I experience things like this quite often, and of course it affects my performance. Apart from making it difficult to maneuver, it also makes it difficult for me to aim manually. If you've ever experienced something like this, I think you know how I feel. In this situation, performance will definitely decrease. Fortunately, I am used to it and already have several ways to deal with the situation. So even though the performance decreases, it's not as bad as when I first experienced it, where in the past I even immediately closed the game and turned off my computer. Sometimes I also deliberately go towards the enemy to kill myself so that I can exit the game quickly and wait a while before returning to playing. But I never did that again, and kept trying and looking for ways to get more damage or assistance damage so that my rating in WN8 weren't too bad in that battle. If you also experience this often, I have prepared several tips that you can do when you are lagging, and I have proven some of them and they work quite well. So I think there is no need to make unreasonable comparisons, and for a new player I think you can do better than what I have done. Because there have been many changes in the game, especially regarding the crew, where now you no longer experience penalties if the crew is less than 100%. Before discussing further, I think it is necessary to explain a little the difference between rating and WN8 so that beginners are not confused. As you can see, the rating is generated based on your performance in battle. The most important thing is damage and assistance damage, because you can get these two things in large quantities if you are lucky and get a good moment. If you get a lot of damage and assist damage in battle, you will definitely get a high rating, and even if it's just one of the two, it doesn't matter as long as there are a lot of them. Here are some examples. In this battle I got 2,000 damage and only 200 assistance damage. The rating is 9,600, and 5,200 by vehicle. In the next report I only got 171 damage, but the assist damage was almost 2,400. The rating is 9,680, which is almost the same as the previous report. Unfortunately, this does not apply to WN8, because WN8 only calculates damage and assistance damage has no effect. So no matter how much assistance damage, your WN8 will remain low if your damage is small. For more details, you can visit this site and do the calculations yourself. There are 5 points that are counted, but the main point is damage dealt. Even though the number of kills is also quite influential, that's because the amount of damage is quite large, but if the damage is small then the other effects will also be smaller. That's why in WN8 damage is the most important and main point. So you could say the more damage dealt, the higher your WN8 because it increases the effect of the other 4 points, and vice versa, if the damage dealt is small, the effect of the other points will also be smaller. Hopefully this brief explanation can broaden your insight about ratings in WN8, and understand what to do next if you want to focus on improving it. You can also do what I did, increase your rating in WN8 but still grind a different tank every month. This is useful for broadening your horizons. I still regularly grind tanks according to top of the tree events, but now I'm not as focused as usual. As you can see, my WN8 has improved compared to a few months ago, when at that time I only focused on grinding according to the top of the tree event. So for those of you who want to know, this is how I do it. As you can see, there are 2 tanks that I have played the most in 60 days, and these 2 tanks are my favorites. There are several reasons I like this tank. The first is that it suits my playing style, which tends to be aggressive. The second is because the tier is not high, so I can collect a lot of credits in each battle. And the third reason is of course the WN8 of these 2 tanks is quite high, as you can see. If you are interested, I will share some tips that I know how to play these 2 tanks in the next video. Before that, you can check your WN8. Maybe there are already several tanks that have quite high WN8 among them. If so, then you just need to play that tank to alternate with the tank you are grinding. How often to play it depends on the results you want. For example, I personally currently have a target of getting 2000 WN8 per day. But if the results from the tanks I'm grinding are good enough, for example, this week I played several tanks that I grinded according to the top of the tree. The result is more than 2000 WN8. Then I no longer need to play my 2 previous favorite tanks. This method is widely used by several old players, some of whom even only focus on playing tanks they have mastered where the WN8 is high. And some of them are even afraid to grind different tanks every month like I do. But maybe it's the second account, so they chose a particular tank to play that they have mastered, and they have tried it on their other account. You can also use this method to create an account with a good rating in WN8 later after mastering several tanks. If you are really new to playing and don't have a tank that you have mastered yet, you can look for recommendations on YouTube, focus on learning one tank first and master it, then play as often as possible to increase your rating in WN8. Hopefully it's useful. See you in the next video.